Come in, come in, come in. This is the Columbia University Irving Medical Center Solidarity event. Please feel free to come in, come in. All right. Do we have everybody here? Just gonna say something. Hello to you all. Thank you for coming in this very windy corridor we have here, but so glad to see so many people coming out. I'm Melanie Wall. I'm a professor of biostatistics in the Mailman School of Public Health and also in the Department of Psychiatry in the Vagelos College of Physicians and Surgeons. And I'm standing here before you today because I wanted to speak out, and I started speaking to some colleagues who also wanted to speak out, and I realized if I sent around a note to enough people that we could get a mass of people who wanted to speak out. I'm going to be the MC for this event today. Let's be clear why we're here for this solidarity gathering. There's been an assault on Columbia University and by extension, an assault on all institutes of higher education in America and on our right to peacefully assemble. One way this assault is happening, which is hitting us very hard at the medical center, is the termination of our research grants. We're going to hear from some of our medical school, public health, and nursing colleagues today describing the damaging ways these terminations of grants are affecting us here on 168th Street, as well as the future of health in the United States and around the world. As I mentioned, in less than 2 weeks, I was able to create a large group of CUIMC colleagues who were willing to openly sign their name endorsing the CU-AAUP letter, asking the administration to fight back against the assault on Columbia, our research, and our students. When our institution leaders fail to fight back, it falls upon us, the people, to make the institution, to be the ones who actually do the standing up. It's not an easy thing to speak up at an event like this. I know very well because many of you and your colleagues and students who are not here today have told me that they're fearful. They're fearful of retribution. They're fearful that their grants might be next if they are too political. They're fearful of losing their jobs and fearful of being picked up by ICE or deported. And so we cannot be silent about why the assault is happening here today, to Columbia first. For one, it's because we're a world-class institution in the center of New York City, which appeals to Trump and his desire for good television. However, why the assault started here really is because of our students and colleagues on the Morningside campus who have been at the epicenter of the pro-Palestinian protest movement, raising awareness, creating a wave across the country of voices speaking out against that war. Not everyone here agrees with those students' views. We know that. But we all agree with our students and our own right to peacefully assemble and speak out against our government's actions without being unreasonably punished for that. The Trump administration's goal is to oppress the voices of all of us who do not fit their agenda, whether that is diversity, equity, and inclusion, pro-Palestinian protesters, or the cutting-edge science that we're doing here on the medical campus. We must stand up. Repeat after me. Protect our university.
Protect our university.
Protect our research.
Protect our research.
Protect our teaching.
Protect our teaching.
And protect our students.
Protect our students.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, I'm so glad you're all here. Who I'd like to introduce next, who's a professor of I don't have my notes. I've known you for a long time, a professor of socio-medical sciences in the Mailman School of Public Health, and really organizer extraordinaire. This wouldn't have been happening without her, so come.
Organizer extraordinaire maybe, but not able to hold 10 pieces of paper and speak. So my name is Jennifer Hirsch, and as Melanie said, I'm a professor in the School of Public Health. I'm going to start by telling you all a little secret. I'm kind of scared to do this. Not the speaking part. In fact, if you ask my kids, you run a physical risk if you stand between me and a microphone. But it's the speaking up part. I'm afraid that if I share my story, I'll end up being blacklisted at NIH. I'll be unable to secure future funding, or else that other people's grants will be restored, but mine won't be. But that fear is why I am here, speaking out. Because when we start to reflect on whether or not we might be blacklisted, the question is not whether we're on the list or not. It's that fear is being used to control us. We are scientists and caregivers here at one of the world's premier medical research centers, and I refuse to be cowed by fear. We shouldn't have to compromise our principles to do our research and teaching. Do you agree with me?
Yes!
And there's something big and bad and scary going on when NIH funding that was allocated under extremely competitive circumstances after review by prestigious scientists who give up a ton of their time to do it gets clawed back to hold an institution of teaching and research hostage. We will not be held hostage. An institution whose mission is to help the people of this neighborhood, of America, and of the world live healthier lives. Unquestionably, all schools, from kindergarten through postgraduate, need to provide environments free of discrimination. I feel like we all agree on that. But what we are experiencing now is an attack on the independence of higher education, indeed on the future of science in America, under the guise of fighting anti-Semitism. And we won't be fooled. Will we be fooled?
No!
We'll chant more later, but I wanted to just wonder. When independent science is under attack, what do?
We stand up, fight back!
When science is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back!
When democracy is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back!
Let's go. Okay, so let me tell you just a little bit about what I do, about the grant that was canceled, and about how I see this moment. I'm an anthropologist. You might be thinking, wow, I didn't even know that there were anthropologists here. What are you doing here? And no, it's not the kind of Indiana Jones thing. There are no snake pits in my job. I talk to people and I study their communities to answer two fundamental public health questions. Why people do the things that harm their health or hurt others, and why people don't do the things that we wish they would. Why they don't wear their seatbelt belts, why they don't wear motorcycle helmets, why they don't wear condoms, and why they don't exercise, and why they commit sexual harm. I've studied why people choose particular contraceptive methods, and specifically why they might prefer ones that are less effective, and why people who are acutely vulnerable to HIV because of limited access to health care and a pool of partners with high rates of infection might choose not to take medication that could keep them from getting infected. Most recently, I've written about why rates of sexual violence are so persistently high among undergraduates, despite everything we teach them about how not to rape each other. Okay, that's my backstory. But what's my story today? This grant of mine that was terminated, in its 18th year, with no apparent explanation, trains the next generation of scientists to do research on gender, sexuality, and health. That's an area where we have big problems as a nation. High rates of teen pregnancy, of maternal mortality, all of the health disparities experienced by sexual and gender minority people, and now, and this is awful and incredible and actually kind of insane, rising rates of congenital syphilis, which for you non-medical people, that's where the mom has untreated syphilis and the baby gets infected in the birth canal. It would take me 5 hours, not 5 minutes, to describe all of the high impact science our trainees have done. Projects like analyzing flaws in the well-meaning policies around sex trafficking, or describing the impacts of U.S. foreign aid to prevent deaths from unsafe abortion or AIDS, or showing what it's like to get or to try to provide an abortion in Ohio as the heartbeat ban is passed and then overturned. Our current trainees are doing really edgy and important work on questions like how the private equity takeover of infertility clinics shapes care, of how state policies around gender-affirming care affect the lives of trans youth, about how Asian American parents' expectations that their daughters will be good girls leads to very low rates of HPV vaccination, or how young black boys experience being sexually abused. These questions might seem a little niche, and they certainly are politically edgy, which is totally on brand for my department. But at bottom, they're all about the same thing. How social conditions, which we can modify if we understand them, shape health. Seeing students who we've trained go on to ask and answer questions that no one has ever worked on before, and to do so in a way that shapes policy, it's a little bit like watching your kids learn to walk, except that instead of just the tidal weight of pride at seeing something that almost every other human learns to do, it's a tidal wave of pride at what they are doing to better the human condition. That's what our graduates do. So yes, I would like my grant money restored. In fact, I demand that my grant money, capriciously and unjustifiably terminated after 8 years of outstanding performance, be restored. But yes, give me my money back. But if it comes to a choice, listen, if it comes to a choice between our democracy and the grant money, I'll take the democracy every time. I'll take the right to speak my mind without fear. I'll choose protections for all of our students, including Black, brown, trans, and international students, and Jewish students who are speaking up for Palestinian rights and lives. I'll work to uphold the processes through which we do science that is assessed without bias by our peers, with funding granted due to merit rather than the political winds. In closing, legend has it that my great-grandfather escaped Russia in a garbage can. I kind of doubt that, actually. It never fully made sense to me. Was it a can just to get across the border? Did he spend the whole time on the ship in a garbage can? But I know why he came. He came so that he could live and raise his family in a country where he didn't have to fear violence from the government because of what he said or how he prayed. And that, my friends, is what we are fighting for. And it is in Abraham's blessed memory that I stand before you today, introducing my next colleague, all of whom we are saying, all of us, we will do our science in the service of humanity, and we will not be silenced.
Great job, Jennifer. Thank you, thank you. So next up, we have Dr. Delavet Castor from the Department of Medicine. Yes,
Thank you, Melanie, and it's so good to see everyone out here today. I will start with just a little bit about my research focus and then and my personal story. So my work focuses on HIV prevention and sexually transmitted infections like HPV in women and other marginalized groups. As an epidemiologist doing team science, I work closely with physicians, other behavioral scientists, economists, and students to identify the barriers to delivering proven interventions to develop solutions for public health impact. I often lead the design and data analysis aspects of our work, and then my other gem is a little bit of wit. And currently my research really focuses on how women adopt HIV preventions like long-acting injectables. I do this work with my colleague here, Silva Kunto Amesti in family medicine and population and family health, with Magda Sobiestrzyk and Debbie Theodore in our division of infectious diseases. Along with Jason Zucker and Anne-Katrine Ullman in ID, I also do work looking at doxycycline post-exposure prophylaxis for preventing sexually transmitted infections in men. With Rachel Shelton and Parisa. I saw Parisa. Woo! She is awesome. We are looking at how to introduce HPV screening for women at risk for cervical cancer in South Africa. And we're doing this work on the back of Louise Kuhn's work that she's done with decades of NIH-funded exemplary research and translating this to public health. All of this work involves collaboration with many people that I don't mention today in the interest of time. And all of it has either been terminated or the ideas have been abrogated because we do not see a clear path in this current climate to continue to do our research. As a human being, my work is focused on humanity, regardless of geopolitical borders that may define how people reside or where our residence is. The glue that holds our team together is this common purpose to serve humanity. The work that I mentioned is located in New York and it's located in South Africa. I work in other parts of the world. And that presents an opportunity that we work to serve humanity wherever that work should be presented, and we shouldn't do that in fear that global health is now not a fad or that the people we serve are no longer considered appropriate or human.
Yes.
On a personal level, like many of you in public health, I came to this research through a windy career that intersected personal and professional experiences. One of the most instrumental personal and professional experiences that I had was spending 10 years in the PEPFAR program. Most of that time I spent at USAID. And from the outset of this administration, I witnessed up close the fear-mongering, the inhumane way that the government abruptly ended foreign assistance. I know US government employees and friends who were terminated. They were put on administrative leave after decades of service. Some had young or ill family members at the time. Thousands of dollars of unreimbursed work travel pending without any clear direction of how they should move forward, leaving them in financial insecurity. Some people have been on multiple tours of duty and have actually no home base in the United States when their work was terminated. These are nuances that we may not understand about how aid workers work, doing research in very many different settings. No clear path of how they will repatriate to the country that they serve. The trauma is multi-level. We may experience a reversal of significant advancements in the health span of humanity, as programs that serve millions of people to prevent HIV, to prevent maternal mortality, to prevent food insecurity, to treat and help orphan children are severed from contingencies with inhumane transition. We will lose decades of bilateral partnership and trust, and that will be extinguished, and also will be extinguished the expertise in development, diplomacy, science, and health. Everyone deserves dignity in how we work and how we live. Now the tirade has turned to education, it's turned to the research, and specifically to Colombia under the guise of anti-Semitism. These activities by the government constitute an assault on the principles of free thinking and shared governance, some of the most fundamental parts of American democracy. This has been a collective bewilderment since this administration has started and on human rights here and around the world. I just want to remind you, these are tactics of oppression and suppression. We cannot yield.
That's right.
I have spent a lot of time with friends and colleagues really thinking about what is our approach with these tactics. And here are some points that I'll summarize in 3 short bullets in the spirit of brevity. Find our notes of solidarity. This is mine. I'm happy to be here with you. Resist through collective action. Preserve scientific integrity, academic freedom, and ultimately freedom for all people, because it will not stop here. When you find your nodes of resistance, connect with other nodes and strengthen it. As we say in epidemiology, the whole truly is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
Fear is an appropriate feeling, but do not resist. Do not self-censor, and hold organizations who are complicit accountable in any way that you can. So now, the story was about anti-Semitism, so I'll speak as a Christian, our far cousin. I am a Christian. I was born in a setting that was 95% Catholic. Before coming to New York, my biggest exposure to Judaism came by way of Yentl. Papa, can you hear me? Papa, can you see me? If I could sing better, I'd sing more. I was a 9-year-old child in the Caribbean when I accidentally came upon the book Exodus by Leon Uris. It's a historical novel of the Holocaust and the founding of Israel. Without understanding the geopolitical complexities of it, I was struck by the description of the inhumane treatment of people. It stained my soul. As I got older, I learned a little more about the African slave trade and the prolonged inhumane treatment of people of African descent in the world. It stained my soul further. That stain is the compulsion to fight injustice. and fight it anywhere that it happens, whether it affects me directly or indirectly. And that is our charge here.
Yes. Woo.
So I'll close with one last thing, because this, when we talk about Judaism, we're talking about matters of faith. So I'll close with a little bit of Christianity, because it doesn't matter. So first, I'll start with the story of the Good Samaritan, because regardless of faith, most of us know it. But if we understand the geopolitical context at the time of this story, we'll know that Samaritans and Jews were persona non grata. So it was not just a stranger doing a good deed. It was actually a stranger who would have stomped on the other person if they had the opportunity. So the story is so much more bigger than that. And then I'll close with Matthew 25, verse 40, which says, "Whatever you do to one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you do it for me." So while I am concerned about our grants, and I want it to come back, and I want them to come back because the work that we're doing is appropriate, this is so much bigger. There's so much more at stake, because we're doing it for the least of us, and we will do it right. And that is the integrity in science. Thank you, everyone. So we must stand up and fight back.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Castor. Thank you. I want to invite people to, if they want to come over here too, filling in, you can feel free. It's so much warmer over here as well, too. Okay, thank you. So we've heard from the Mailman School of Public Health. Now, actually, we have some speakers from BPNS. Is Carolyn Westhoff in the audience? Oh, yes, please. I'm sorry. I'm just getting to meet all of you. It's been so great. Hi, I'm Melanie. Nice to meet you. Would you like to say a few words to us?
Yes, first of all, I really appreciate the eloquence of my colleagues who spoke to you already. And, all right, speak into the closer. Oh, okay. It's kind of shooting back in my face. Okay, there we go. So I'm actually faculty in public health, but I'm really going to speak about what's been going on as faculty in the medical school, and some of my colleagues who are similarly affected are seeing patients right now. So I'm the designated speaker, but my area of work for a long time has always been contraception and abortion. And if we go back to the first Trump administration, there was a lot of opposition to any of that kind of work, loss of funding that was specifically directed to those topics that the administration was not interested in or supporting. And this institution withdrew from the Title X program because of the restrictions by the previous Trump administration. Title X is a federal program to provide family planning and other preventive services to poor people, particularly poor women and teens, but more broadly than that. We actually, because of restrictions 8 years ago, withdrew from that program and found other ways to fund and continue providing the care. And I guess this will be a rare shout out that Governor Hochul has been extremely helpful in providing additional funds for abortion care in particular across New York and right here at this institution. But so those are all the things that we wouldn't expect this administration to be protecting or funding or supporting in any way. But what's happened now, of course, has nothing to do with topic. And I think everything we've heard about from, Jennifer, for instance, sounds like stuff the administration would certainly not be in favor of. But right now, what we're going through is something much broader than that doesn't care about content whatsoever. My specific defunded area is that I have, in many years of NIH funding, had 20 continuous years as a member of NIH's Contraceptive Clinical Trials Network. And we're a group of institutions that collaborate on writing protocols and developing new contraceptives. I might add that most of them fail because we're always trying brand new weird stuff, and most of that'll fail. But many things have succeeded, resulted in new contraceptives that are even on the market. None of that relates to abortion because there's never been any federal funding for abortion. Well, our membership in that network was just terminated 2 weeks ago after. And we are alone in the country. All the other members of the network have had their funding sustained. We're all doing the same work, but only the work here at Columbia was terminated, and that is, as I think everybody knows, broadly true across the institution. So in the Department of OBGYN, funding for research in high-risk obstetrics has been completely cut. Funding for research in GYN oncology, completely cut. And those are presumably not areas of any political challenges. Family planning is always a political challenge, but right now that doesn't matter. The grant terminations apply across the board to everybody, and I think that if we focus on the content of the research that's canceled, we will miss the bigger message that everybody's signs and sentiments here have already speak to, which is that we have to protect speech and students and research and academic freedom across the board, regardless of the topic area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Westhoff. And so up next we have another colleague from the Department of Medicine, Dr. Andrew Moran. Thank you, Andrew.
First, I want to thank you, Dr. Westhoff, for being an inspiration when I was in medical school and looking for role models. Thank you. So, I'm cold. Are you all cold? Yeah! Okay. I'm Andrew Moran. I'm an associate professor of medicine at Columbia. I'm a primary care doctor. I'm a researcher, and I'm a public health implementer. This morning, I worked at the Associates in Internal Medicine Clinic. Two of my colleagues, Juana and Maria. Yeah. Woo! It's right down 168th Street. It's a place where doctors and nurses and residents and medical students work together to help people take care of chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, depression, and dementia. The work is hard, but I can tell you that it feels great every day to wake up and go to do the right thing, and often the best thing possible for our patients. Columbia is a research powerhouse. Only over the past few months at local conferences, I learned about miraculous new medical treatments that attack the harmful immune cells that attack the body in lupus. Treatments to control diabetes or hypertension with a single treatment that could last for months at a time. Treatments like gene therapy to correct genetic mutations like the one that causes sickle cell for a person's whole life. Medical miracles don't happen overnight. They take years. They aren't cheap, at first anyway. It takes investment, federal dollars, to make these treatments happen. And they only happen in places like this, where we bring the best and the brightest together to work and collaborate. This, along with many other things right now, is what is at stake. Miracles like these and the livelihoods of the people who discover them and make these treatments possible. What will happen if you and I don't stand up for Columbia? What will happen if we don't stand up for federal funding for research, for training medical professionals, for health care for poor and vulnerable people? You won't notice it tomorrow. You may not notice it for a few months, but someday soon, you or a family member will be diagnosed with cancer, dementia, or some other terrifying disease. But this time, there will be no miracle cure because there was no funding for research. You will look up and see a young doctor or nurse taking care of you or your loved one and wonder, did this person train after 2025? Do they know what they're doing? Can I trust that they're here to do the right thing and the best possible thing for me? So join me, friends and colleagues, and take a stand for Columbia, for her independence, for her integrity. Take a stand for the amazing research we do here, for the amazing doctors, nurses, dentists, and public health professionals we train here. Our students are watching. Our children are watching us now. Will we take a stand?
Yes!
Will we do the right thing?
Yes!
Do the right thing so we can all be the best thing possible and be amazing.
That was great. Very inspirational words. Thank you. Thank you. So up next we have Dr. Lou Ziska from the Department of Environmental Health Sciences.
Thank you so much. I can't really add much to what's already been said. I've been doing research on global climate change and public health for 30 years. No matter what the Trump administration says, I'm going to keep on doing research on global climate change. Why? Because I'm a scientist. When I have somebody telling me, oh, you can't say that, oh, no, it's a Chinese hoax, I'm going to be skeptical. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to challenge them. Why? Because I'm a scientist. If I talk to individuals and I show them that this research is helping them, it's helping patients, it's one of the things that we do that serves humanity in a way that other disciplines cannot do. It's a way of showing how much we care. It isn't just about the facts. It isn't just about the numbers. It shows that we have a vested interest in the people that we serve. Why? Because we're scientists. Please keep that in mind. And that's why we're here. We don't want to be dictated to. That's not who we are. We are independent. We fight back. We are, for lack of a better word, badasses.
Love that, love that. Okay, so one note, if you haven't already signed up for our campaign, our signature campaign, so that we have your email and we can keep you informed about other events that are happening and build our community even larger. There are people with QR codes. Caleb's holding up one there. There's people, Dan's holding up one there. You can use that. If you don't know what I think everyone knows what a QR code is by now. Okay, so next up, we have another colleague from the Department of Medicine, from the Department of Psychiatry, my home. That is Jeremy Veenster Vanderwell, who is the Area Chief of Child Psychiatry.
Thank you. I think Melanie's right. It's warmer up here. So it's really wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to see the solidarity. I will speak on behalf of myself. Early in my career in high school student model of the United Nations, I learned it was important to say who you're speaking on behalf of. I think we're all here speaking on behalf of ourselves, and I think it's important to note Columbia by itself will not be able to fight this back. We just have to acknowledge that, and we have to be prepared for what it's going to take. So my name is Jeremy Veenstra Vanderweel. I work primarily with children, adolescents, and adults who have a diagnosis of autism. I work with folks who are severely affected, mostly folks who cannot speak for themselves. It's a tough area to work. It's an incredibly important area to work. As a child and adolescent psychiatrist, it's also incredibly meaningful. But I do research because most of the time, and this happened to me on Monday, when a parent asked, well, isn't there something more we can do? The answer is at this point, not really. And to try to get something more, to try to deliver more, we at Columbia and colleagues across the country have sought funding, federal funding, to make a difference. We're very fortunate that we have one of only a handful of Autism Center of Excellence grants here at Columbia. That's one of the things it takes. It also takes training grants to prepare new scientists. We're also fortunate to have one of those, also one of only a handful in the country. I will say, I can't tell you, we have exciting findings, I can't tell you what that's going to deliver yet. Because one of the things that we do as both doctors and scientists is instead of just making things up, we figure them out. So I'm going to instead tell you a story about a medicine, one of the first precision medicines that impacted me and my family. It's the story of Herceptin, or trastuzumab, which I still can't really pronounce properly. And it's also the story of my mom and my baby brother. So in 1984, a group at an institution that had a cancer center grant and a training grant around cancer research had an exciting finding that showed a particular receptor, the HER2/neu receptor, was overexpressed in tumor cells, breast cancer tumor cells, and led to a growth in those tumors. Not very exciting. Certainly would not have happened, however, if that center grant and the training grants associated with it were canceled. 2 years later, in 1986, another group, different institution, also cancer center funded, also training grant funded, figured out that if you block that receptor, the tumors shrink. Also not that exciting in a dish. A year later, 1987, my baby brother was born. 5 years later, in 1992, a couple of investigators were trying to figure out if they could take those findings, NIH-funded findings, and turn them into a medicine. They started experimenting with it. It was touch and go. It didn't necessarily develop quickly. But in 1992, also, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was 39. My brother was 4. My brother doesn't have any memories of my mom before breast cancer. She received the standard treatments, and thankfully those treatments were helpful for a while. By 1996, the cancer was widely metastatic, and she received what at the time her doctor thought was the right thing to do, which is a stem cell transplant, even before the NIH-funded trial to test whether that worked was completed. She almost died in the hospital. She spent about 6 weeks there. I remember this because my brother at that point was 9, and I had to teach him how to use deodorant, which was not something I expected to be doing. I expected his parents to be doing that, but they weren't available. She was in the hospital. It turned out 2 years later, we learned, along with everyone else, that not only did that not work for her, wasn't any better than standard treatment, but it didn't really work for anyone. It turned out stem cell transplants were then shown by an NIH-funded trial to not work. Thankfully, at that time, she was able to start in a clinical trial of a medicine that came directly from those earlier NIH studies that would not happen now because Trump would have canceled them. But that saved her life and allowed her to live not just the 1 year she was projected to live at that point in time when my baby brother was 10, but an additional 8 years, long enough that she made it through his entire childhood. Again, he doesn't remember her without cancer, but he turned 18, graduated from high school, knowing her and benefiting from what she had to share. I share this recognizing I don't think the Trump administration particularly cares about my baby brother or my mom or frankly, most of our lives. I think we have to acknowledge they're aware that what they're doing is resulting in people dying. I think we feel like we could just share that with them and they'd turn around and say, oops, sorry. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to work. I think what we are going to have to do is to recognize some things we don't like to recognize sometimes. You have to also share Herceptin made $70 billion. I think about it in terms of extending my mom's life, but that's pretty meaningful. But also, I think, unfortunately, we're not going to convince these folks by talking to them. We have to figure out ways to rise up, right? So this conversation, sure, and I wish that we could just say, well, Columbia disagrees with you, and they'll give the money back. That's not going to happen, right? What they need to hear is that America disagrees with you. America wants a diagnosis of cancer that's accompanied by potential treatments, right? America wants to be able to say, we'll do better in 10 years than we're doing right now. We are capable of that. The research that was canceled was part of delivering on that promise. We need to find ways to step up, to communicate to friends and colleagues. The reason I can tell you this story this way with the years is that my baby brother looked it all up. He's an architect, but he looked up what happened each year with annotations to be able to explain what he didn't really experience that way at the time, but came from NIH funding, came from scientists who were dedicated and weren't canceled. So let's reach out to friends, family, let's convey that America doesn't want this, right? Not just Columbia. America wants to see a country that benefits from advancing knowledge, and we need to fight for that. So let's fight.
Thank you very much for doing it. Yes, and it's not a red state or a blue state issue. These are everyone's issues when our science is actually being cut and not being able to help the people we want to help. So our last speaker today is Ezra Susser. Where's Ezra? A champion for all in many, many ways across his career. From the Mailman School of Public Health, I would like to introduce Ezra Susser.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Make sure to hold it as close to your mouth.
Oh, okay. It is hard to get up and speak here. You know, I am afraid. Everybody's afraid, and there will be consequences. But you have to. I have to stand up for what's right. I don't feel I have any choice. Okay.
Speak closer than you think. Like, eat it.
Like this? Yes! She said, eat it. Anyway, so I just feel I have no choice but to stand up for what's right. Otherwise, I cannot have any pride in myself. And if most people are afraid, and if we don't stand up, nobody will stand up.
Yes.
We're not going to win today because we're little flies and we're fighting people who have all the power in the world, or more power than anybody else in the world. But we can beat them in the long run. We can push them back, and we can carry on improving the health of the population. That's what we're all about. So me, I'm a psychiatric epidemiologist. I study largely things like autism, schizophrenia, those kind of illnesses. And I'm gonna first I'm gonna remember what I'm gonna say. So what do psychiatric epidemiologists do? Well, one thing we do is look for the causes of mental illnesses, because we look for ways to prevent them. The other thing, main thing we do, I think, is find ways to help people who have mental illnesses to live better daily lives, so they don't become homeless, so they don't live in misery, which many people with severe mental illnesses do. We have to improve those conditions. So that's what we do. And I'll talk more about psychiatric epidemiology in a minute. But I want to just highlight 2 points in the time we have today. And the first has to do with this theory that vaccines cause autism. So that is a theory that arose, you could say 1990s, and many people who had children with autism believed that it was due to vaccines because they happen at the same time. That's natural. So me and my colleagues took that very seriously. We didn't dismiss it because often families and patients will know things that doctors don't see. So I spent maybe a decade, not just me, but many people studying this problem, along with the families. The end result was crystal clear. Vaccines don't cause autism. And almost everybody who has autism or has a family member with autism knows that now. So why am I talking about this? Well, because RFK Jr., who just appointed to be the head of the Health and Human Services Department, doesn't believe this. So, right now, we have a measles outbreak in Texas and neighboring states. And what is he doing? Take vitamin A. He doesn't want to. You could easily prevent this. You could contain it with vaccinations. But he's not in favor of that. So some kids have died. You can also, much more common than death, is brain infection from measles. But that doesn't really concern him. So, you know, you have to think, like, what do you really want to work? I need people to help me.
We all do.
We
all do.
It's like accommodating a disability.
No.
I don't.
Solidarity.
Okay. Takes an academic village. So, the vaccinations are not just for measles, right? The vaccinations are for polio. Even you could think of smallpox. They eradicated it now. But there are all kinds of diseases that used to be common that we now prevent with vaccines.
Thanks to federal dollars that help the scientists to develop those.
Exactly, including the COVID vaccine. So, do we want to go back to a world where we or our families or anybody, well, where these diseases are common? Do we really want that?
No.
So, that's all I have to say about RFK Jr. and the serious damage that he is doing to people, like cutting funds at Columbia. And it isn't about, as others have said, this isn't just about Columbia, because they have said very clearly, you know, Trump, Vance, RFK, they have said very clearly, this is just the beginning. They want to do this in all US universities. That's the explicit plan. They're just hitting Columbia first because they want to intimidate us. And they have a lot of power to do it. So the second thing that I want to talk about is more about psychiatric epidemiology. So they don't just do the things I said. People in psychiatric epidemiology are people that look for causes of all kinds of mental health problems. They develop new and effective treatments and test them for mental health problems. And they try to give dignity to people that have these problems. So we've been training here since 1972. You know, generations of people in psychiatric epidemiology who've gone across the country and across the world and done this kind of work. And many of the discoveries that have been made in this field were made right here by people who were trained here and by people who were trained here and went elsewhere. So this program has been going since 1972. Some would say 67, but let's just say 72. It's been through NIH review cycles every 5 years since then, if you can imagine. and it received an outstanding score every time. It's been continuous. And through that, we've trained psychiatric epidemiologists around the country and around the world. So, why do we want to stop that? Do we really want to stop that?
No.
Do we want to abandon people? Every family has a person with mental illness. It might be your father, it might be your daughter, it might be you, many of us. Do we want to be abandoned? Nothing more is going to happen? No, we don't want that. So if we don't want it, we have to stand up. Otherwise, because that program has been stopped. I'm the co-director, one of the co-directors of that program. And I've been, centrally involved in it for, must be 40 years since I came to Columbia. And it's a profound loss, It's a profound loss. And I've also been on other grants. I've been the PI on other grants that have been canceled, which I'll just mention for a moment because they're a profound loss in another way, I'm Jewish and my parents are from South Africa where I was born, and they spent the first part of their lives fighting apartheid alongside Mandela. Then they spent the later part of their lives training people to do HIV epidemiology in South Africa and elsewhere in the sub-Saharan African continent. And they built there an infrastructure which is the best in Africa. It really serves the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. And their former students been recognized around the world. I don't know if you remember never mind. Lots of them are famous now. But all grants to South Africa have been cancelled. Or are on the line to be cancelled. They are going to cancel all of them. So I have a grant that's been cancelled. But the biggest thing is that this is the result of 40 or 50 years' work to try to bring some equity and, more, let's just say, human concerns, to think about what's happening in Africa and other parts of the world, and it's being wiped out. You can't replace these things, 40 years of relationships. You can't replace them. You can't go back and say, oh, trust me, but I trusted you and you kicked me out, So I feel the whole family legacy, which was pretty big, was wiped out. And that's a very big loss. But we can rebuild it all in time if we stand up. So let's stand up and fight.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we have one more comment from the audience.
Okay, so I've been at Columbia for more than 20 years, and when I started in my department, my beloved colleague Ron Baer always had his hand up first for the first question. And Ron, you missed the first question, but you do get the very last word. We're going to have Q&A after we break because you all have been very patient and it's very cold. Please don't leave without finding someone with a QR code if you want to be in touch with us for other events that we're going to have. Ron has not more than 1 minute to have his last word.
Hi, everyone. I want to say something about the assault on our international students. I read with rage and shame when I hear about students going into hiding because their student visas have been canceled. I read with outrage about a Korean woman at Barnard who'd been here since she was 7 years old, who was having her residency canceled. So, it seems to me that this is not only something we have to be enraged about, I believe it is the responsibility of Columbia University to provide legal support to every student who's threatened. That's a demand we make on the administration.
Yes. Thank Thank you so much. When they come for our students, what are we gonna do? Stand up, fight back. Thank you, Ron. So that's the end of our planned period. If you haven't already signed up,